Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this sole video we have a story that is just chock-a-block full of twists and turns. See, guess what? Right when an L fella, a good old boy, was found in, not the healthiest way, it became a real whodunit in Cherokee County. Inside this wealthy family, the fingers done got pointed. You think it's the son? Too bad, it's the other one, or maybe it's the wife. Or was it? Yes, one of them. Anyway. Alright, now you and I, let's give it a go. Cherokee County, north of Atlanta, Georgia, not the font or the country, the state. That is where we are today. It's part of the greater metro Atlanta area, and it's a pretty place, growing all the time. These days, you bet your bottom dollar, there's about 300,000 people living there, and sure, why not? It's a safe community, parks, nature, murder, all the hits, all the classics. It's just freaking delicious, guys. It's desirable. I don't know what else you want from me. I don't know what else you want me to tell you about it. Move there, bring your fun books. Cherokee County, check please. In an area dotted with country clubs and golf clubs lies a little dead-end road, name of Purcell Lane. And there, oh my, a mystery was unfolding. 2155 Purcell Lane, big house, 4-bed, 3.5 bath, surrounded by woods and rolling fields. A 10-acre estate, you bet your hind legs. Gorgeous, I say, without sarcasm for a change, and very unmurderous. I do say so with sarcasm. It all began on the 4th of July 2018. This home was the abode of the Ferris family. And the thing was, no one could quite put their finger on where the patriarch of the family was that day. His name was Gary Farris, though he often went by his nickname of Big Daddy, which is clearly copying my nickname, but I'll allow it just this once. The Ferris family were a tight-knit one, always staying close and connected to this little area. The farm, they called it. The Ferris family was made up of Gary and Melody, happily married for 4 decades, and their 4 children. You got your Chris, you got your Scott, your Emily, and your Amanda. They all had their own lives, though Scott, a military veteran, he stayed closest to his parents, he still lived on the farm, he took care of it, the horses and chickens and such. But each of them would return frequently, themselves, their partners, their children. It was a place for the birthdays, the celebrations, the grandkids would be there. An idyllic, happy place. It all came from Gary, Big Daddy. He was a prominent lawman from Atlanta. In 2018, he was 58 years of age, a Georgia boy in and around. He was a partner at Burr and Foreman. He founded the company's Atlanta office in 1995, and he had been practicing the law since 1988. He was pretty good though, a prestigious fella. He had the honors and awards to his name. He was also he's a pretty big name. He was also a pretty big guy for you. He was 6'5", a good 300 pounds. He'd be drinking Mountain Dew by the carton load, huffing darts like there was no tomorrow. And he was well loved by his family. He did it all for them. So when no one could find him on this July 4th, it was concerning. He had been, on the farm. He'd been seen there the day before, July 3rd, by 2 of his sons. Scott, who lived there, and Chris, who had been around with his own kids. He'd been seen, he was fine. He was doing grand. He then just vanished off the property. His wife, Melody, knew not where he was. Come the 4th of July, she realized she hadn't seen him all day. Scott hasn't. Nobody has seen him at all come that July 4th. Now, it was a large property. I'm sure he's around, but he was no answering on the phone, and his car was still there. When that day ended, and the next one began, July 5th, and still no one could find him, things became worrisome. All the kids came back to the farm and started looking around for him, hoping to find him. I mean, the fear was, he was a big guy, he didn't, live the most healthiest of lifestyles, so people were thinking maybe he'd been out there in the woods doing something, maybe he had a heart attack. The old ticker done give out, and he's lying there in the woods, he needs help. Nobody knew. Now his son, Chris and Scott, they did remember though, that when they had last spoken to him, when they had last seen him, when anybody had last seen him, July 3rd, He did say he was going to go out and do a burn pile, and he was mad for the burn piles. He couldn't get enough of them, honestly. He would go out into the woods, branches, sure, you know, any old shite he could find. Light that sucker up. To that, Gary Farris would say, nothing better. And so, searching around the property, they did eventually find that burn pile he said he was going to do, and he had did it. The burn pile was, burnt, but there was no sign or, clues of him there. Until his sons, Scott and Chris, looked a little closer at the burn pile. And, their father's last known activity from at least the day before, and they realized some of the rocks in the burn pile, they weren't rocks at all. They appeared to be bones. The fire must have been intense to burn a human body like that, but it appeared they'd finally found their missing Big Daddy. Police arrived to investigate and try to ascertain what exactly happened out here. How and why. Had Gary Big Daddy Farris gone to trip and fall school and tumbled into his own blaze? Or not? And sure, wouldn't Melody say to the police when she was questioned, he's been having a few of old dizzy spells over the last few months.
He takes his blood pressure medicine with a Mountain Dew, and he said antacids it with cigarette.
He was in the hospital in April, but he's been having these spells, and they get more and more and more frequent.
Perhaps he fell at the worst possible time.
The residents at the location located some human remains on the property.
Frightening, deputies say Thursday on this picturesque property in the hills of Cherokee County. The owners made a gruesome discovery. Someone's remains to the rear of the residence. Investigators don't know if they belong to a man or a woman.
An extreme amount of wooded areas on the property, so it's just a matter of making sure we cover every inch of land for any kind of evidence. And
soon, suspicion would fall on each of them, going from one Farris to the other. Like some kind of wheel. Like a wheel. Like one of those wheels they have at amusement parks. What are they called? Anyways, all the Farrises were questioned, and if you can believe it, each Farris had a secret of their own. Any thoughts of it being some sort of a freak accident, though, where he somersaulted into his own burn pile? Any thoughts to that were swiftly kicked up the arse when they found a few indications that hadn't happened. I mean, if you're going to fall into the fire, it's unlikely the entirety of your body will be consumed. And not only that, a bullet was found in Gary's ribcage. And it's pretty hard to fall on a bullet so much it gets lodged in your ribs. But who shot him dead? It could have been any of his family members. He was always happy to hand out money he earned. Some likely wanted it very badly and weren't asking. Melody, the last person to see him and his wife, was questioned first.
So you were the last one to see Gary alive on Tuesday night?
Right.
Did you hear any gunshots?
No, but there was a ton of, like fireworks and firecrackers and all kinds of stuff going off.
Do I need to get an attorney?
That's up to you. It's one of your rights.
I would have never, ever hurt him. Never.
The unfortunate thing is somebody did, and we
Sure.
don't know who did, and it's our job to determine that. You're the spouse. We have to do everything in our power to rule you out or to rule you in,
And sure, you know yourself. If you can believe it, wouldn't Gary have a good old... $2 million. I mean, Gary and Melody, they didn't even sleep in the same bed. Never mind the same bedroom. They didn't even sleep on the same floor of the house at the farm. She slept on like the second floor. He slept on the first floor. Then their son Scott, he slept in an apartment above the garage. So was it Melody? She had a lot to gain. But Melody was quick to say that both her sons, Chris and Scott, had been having issues with Gary lately.
So given the history of, just talking to everybody, it doesn't seem like he was depressed and suicidal. He's never had any violent tendencies.
No.
The location of where the wound was received on the body, from the evidence that we can tell, is not a typical self-inflicted place to shoot yourself.
Where was it?
It was in his rib cage. That's the one that we have found so far.
Right. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to think.
So, he has no enemies or friends according to anybody,
He's a lawyer.
right? A corporate real estate lawyer, so
Yeah, he's a corporate real estate lawyer.
yeah. There's nothing missing from the property that anybody's reported.
No.
You weren't harmed, you were in the house.
Yeah.
It was just you and him there, Scott possibly out in the barn, so you don't know how he received at least one gunshot wound.
No, I do not.
Any feuds with the boys lately?
He and Scott would get into it pretty heavily. I mean, they'd come to blows just over things because Gary was so anal about everything. I mean, Scott's hot. I mean, he is. He's hot-tempered. There is no doubt. He's very hot-tempered. I mean, he left, and I don't know where he was. I mean, I don't. I mean, Chris, we've had our rounds with him of stealing money. I mean, to the point of that Chris is just, we didn't know what to do with him.
Here comes the bus. Whoops, there you go. She was really hanging her sons out to dry. Nice. Scott was quick-tempered as all shit. Chris, he stole from Gary, according to Melody.
Let me ask you a question. What do you guys think happened?
See, this is where I'm torn. I want to tell you what I know. I don't want to tell you what I think.
My dad never said anything negative to me about my mother, except for just like her going out and spending so much money on stuff like that and all. But my mother, on the other hand, man, I can't tell you how many times I've heard her say, I can't wait till the day I don't have to live with him. I wish he would just have a heart attack and die.
On the surface, it seemed like the family were close, but underneath, they were all only close because Gary was the source of that sweet, sweet cheddar cheese, and every single member of the family was spooning off Big Daddy in some way or another. Gary was shot, likely shot dead, then thrown onto the burn pile that was out like in the nearby woods. However, Melody would say she didn't hear any gunshots that night, like from, late on the 3rd to early on the 4th. However, it's the 4th of July. She would say there was fireworks going off like all day and all night. One of them could have been a gunshot, but she didn't hear nothing. So out in the woods, a gunshot may go unnoticed on that particular night. However, as this was a murder, the house was searched. And they quickly determined that the gunshot that likely ended Gary Farris's life, it didn't come from out in the woods, out at the burn pile. The gunshot came from inside the house. Drops of blood were found on the stairs. Luminol lit it up, and a spent bullet on the floor was found outside of Gary's bedroom. From the blood, it seemed like Gary had been shot twice, and then he had tried to flee before succumbing to his injuries. Now, Melody, of course, was saying she hadn't heard any gunshots that night out in the woods. You would probably notice if a gunshots, like 1 or 2 gunshots was coming from directly below you. Chances are you'd notice that. Both Chris and Scott said they saw their dad on July 3rd, that late afternoon, and he was fine. Melody said herself and Gary had dinner at about 6 p.m, then they went their separate ways as they lived on separate floors of the house. And that was it. The fire was already lit that night, by the night of July 3rd.
Came back home, and that's when, when I came home, I saw the fire going in the woods and, didn't think of anything of it.
On July 3rd, Gary speaks with his sons, Chris and Scott, who both were out and about, says he's going to light a burn pile. He does so. He lights that burn pile. Then he has dinner with his wife, Melody, and then he's never seen again till he's discovered 2 days later inside the burn pile with 2 bullet holes. And, sort of interestingly, his own CPAP machine revealed that it hadn't been used the night of the 3rd. So likely, he had been killed that night. And sure, the only people in the house that night were his wife, Melody, and his son, Scott, who lived there. So likely one of those two murdered him dead. But if Gary had been shot dead in the house by his wife, Melody, I mean, could little old Melody really drag the 300-pound, 6'5" Gary out into the woods by herself, out like to the distant woods to the burn pile? She was only itty bitty.
just realistically speaking, if someone of a 5'4", 130-pound stature was able to transport somebody that's 6'5" and 208 pounds.
Right. I mean,
we figure somebody had to have helped. That person needs to be found as much as anybody else.
Right.
Okay.
Police, they also found ammo in Scott's apartment on the property, same caliber as the murder weapon. That's weird, same caliber as the murder weapon, but it wasn't the same bullets, it was just of the same type. Scott also had the strange story about finding a firearm a couple of months previous that was of the same caliber as the murder weapon. He just sort of like stumbled across it in the basement of the house. He had never seen it before, didn't know how it got there, but now it's gone. He went looking for it after they found his dad, but before they knew his dad had been shot, and he said lads, what's going on here? And also, when Gary disappeared, but before he was found in the burn pile, didn't Scott go out and check the trail cams in the woods around their house, just to see maybe one of these cameras caught where Gary was and, give him a clue as to where he could be? Scott said he checked the footage that was on the trail cameras, didn't see anything, just squirrels, deers, that kind of shit. And then he deleted all the footage because he's not on it. Why would you delete the footage?
I went down there and checked the trail cam, and there's just a couple squirrels and a couple raccoons, and that was it. I deleted everything.
It was worrisome. Like with Gary dead, everything went to Melody, but Melody was insinuating that her kids, her own flesh and blood, especially Scott, who still lived with them, that they were so greedy that she was worried she might be up next for a meet and greet with the Grim Reaper. Melody was saying it was her sons, Scott in particular, that likely murdered Gary. And they were saying the complete opposite, that Melody killed their dad.
I don't know if my mom did this or not. I don't know. But all the she's done for the last 10 years has really added up to what else are we going to look at?
Only two people were on the property. It had to be Melody or Scott. And it does seem, though, unbelievable that Melody wouldn't have noticed the gunshots that were on the floor directly below her. I mean, check this out. Police even did noise tests to see if the gunshot could be heard outside the house, how far the sound would travel. It traveled.
2, 1, shots fired, shots fired.
All units stand by. 3, 2.
But, and it's a big booty, would she have been big enough to drag her plus-sized husband out of the house to the burn pile? Scott, ex-military, would have been big and strong enough to drag his dad into the woods. The bullets were found in Scott's room. They weren't the same as the murder bullets, but they were of the same caliber, and this is just across the way. Scott also deleted the trail cam footage, and he said he had seen the mystery gun that now, for some reason, couldn't be found.
How did little old Melody move? Big old beard.
I love my father more than anything. He was my role model. She was the one who I didn't trust.
If you came home and walked up on it and she threatened you,
I would have been calling on the second that I would have found out about it.
if that's what happened, she killed him with your gun and you're scared, we need to know. If you came home in the middle of it and she said, you're not getting any of this damn money I'm about to inherit if you don't keep your mouth shut, we have to know.
No, I swear on my father's grave, life, whatever you want to say, I didn't have anything to do with this at all.
They all had a real good motive. Money. Lots and lots and lots of money, as Gary Farris, very successful attorney in Atlanta. Melody, she didn't work. She had been a stay-at-home mom all her life, and now that her kids were grown, she was just stay at home. And his son Scott, who lived on the property, he didn't have a job either. He was ex-military, and now he was just in charge of the animals, the pets, the chickens, the horses, taking care of the property. So he didn't actually have a job. Now the murder weapon. 99% of the time you find the murder weapon, you'll find the murderer. So who knows what about that?
there's a firearm missing
Right.
from the house. So we need a list of everything of a pistol caliber that anybody has ever seen.
We have information that there was probably about a month and a half ago that there was another firearm found in your house. Don't have any
I
idea.
don't know anything about guns.
So Scott is the one that told us about a month and a half ago that he saw the pistol in the basement. The AT&T guy was there to do some repairs or to do something. He was trying to find the remote.
I don't know.
Found the pistol. That pistol's not there anymore. Where
I didn't know anything
where it was.
about one.
Didn't know anything about a pistol. So you...
Well, a name came up. Someone who had a gun like that. The murder weapon. The one Scott had seen in the house yonks gone by. His name was Ted. Neighbor and family friend Ted. Now the police did follow up with this Ted fella, and the murder weapon wasn't to be found. But that lead of Ted gave the police another lead entirely. See, Ted he lived by. He was close, family friend, and he'd even been married at one point to Gary Farris's sister. That's how tight they had been. Once. Then Ted started seeing someone else. Because basically Ted went to Gary and said, you know what, I've had your sister, now I'll have your wife. Ted and Melody started having an affair. Gary learns about this. Melody, of course, denies it. Gary starts putting trackers on her car. Melody then actually moved out for a time, for months, living with Ted before coming back to Gary saying, oh, you know, it's all good. It's all good here, right? We're cool. Melody came back because Gary started filing for a divorce. Man, wonder if him being really, really rich had anything to do with her coming back. To the point where when Melody was going to be served the divorce papers, she hid in the bathroom. She hid in a restroom so she couldn't be served with the divorce notice. That was actually when they bought this property, the farm, as a sort of fresh start for both Gary and Melody. But Gary never forgot it. He never forgave it, and he watched everything she did. He especially didn't want her spending money on the man she was having an affair with. Now that she was back with him, Melody was being watched, and she was on an allowance.
I understand that at some point there was an allegation of an affair.
But, I mean, that's been our entire marriage.
Your entire marriage?
Yeah.
He has always accused you?
Always
or-
accused me.
Why is that?
His dad did the same thing to his mother,
Mm-hmm.
but that was his control thing, you know.
I mean, you might think that sounds harsh and sort of paranoid, but Gary had good reason. Because she was still having affairs.
Are you currently in an affair with anyone?
No.
Is anyone pursuing you?
No.
There's no jealous boyfriends?
No.
When the investigation began, that was like one of the first questions police asked Melody. Hey, having an affair, you know, motive 9 out of 10 times. She denied it, said, Then they searched her, they did a wallet biopsy. They found in Melody's wallet a credit card. The name on it was Roy Barton. She was lying, she was actually having another affair. And of course, she had a secret phone she used to talk to this Roy with too, and she was on the phone with him all the time. So police went and they questioned this Roy guy that Melody was having an affair with, and his alibi checked out. He, wasn't involved in the murder of Gary Farris. But in one of those sort of, just one more thing type moments, when police were questioning Roy about his affair with Melody and if it could be linked to her husband's death, he said, she'd said this.
Probably the last minute of the last conversation, she said, Gary is in the burn pile. No, she said, he is in the burn pile. And I said, what? And she said, he's in the burn pile. And I said, do not say another word and do not tell me anything. I do not need to know.
That call happened on the evening of July 3rd, which is shortly after Gary Farris disappeared forever. Certainly before he was actually found in the burn pile. How did she know he was there? Suspicion was mounting, if you can believe that. And remember those dizzy spells that Gary was having when he was going to slip and fall school? That was a little suspicious too. People started to think that maybe Melody was behind those dizzy spells Gary was having. That she was poisoning him. Here, gobble this. And when I say people started to think Melody was behind this, People means Gary, as in Gary started to think that Melody was poisoning him. Gary even confided in 2 of his kids when he was in the hospital, likely put there by being poisoned. And the doctors couldn't find out what was wrong with Gary, why he was, collapsing and all that kind of thing. Gary said to his kids, listen, either your mom is a real shit cook, or she's trying to kill me. I haven't decided yet. Gary even recorded this video and sent it to his kids right after he ate some of her food once again. And this video was taken July 2nd, 2018, the day before he was shot dead.
When you leave a plate, forget to take it upstairs. A minor temper tantrum. Which I had supper tonight and it was 6 for me, so I'm sure I'll be feeling poorly here in minutes. But we'll see.
It all led back to Melody. A Melody who was having an affair, who was being watched at all times, and who wanted money that instead was going to their kids. And it takes a special kind of sick to blame your own kids for killing their father. But 2 main things were going against this line of inquiry. 1, they didn't have the murder weapon. They couldn't find it. 2 was that they still couldn't explain how little old Melody could bring Big Daddy Gary. How could she wouldn't have been strong enough to bring his body from the house to the burn pile. Actually, wait, no, they did actually figure out that second part. Sorry.
I just found it very, very odd for that tractor to be parked down there. I know my dad wouldn't have just left it there. I mean, the only time he would have left that tractor there is if it was stuck.
Both Chris and Scott would tell the police that the morning they were searching for their dad, the 4th of July, they noticed that the family tractor was parked weird. Tracks were also found near the burn pit. Melody Farris was ultimately arrested in 2019 and charged with Gary's murder.
Melody Ferris went before a judge today. She is charged with killing attorney Gary Farris 1 year after his remains were found on the family's property. Detectives say she tried to hide the alleged shooting by burning his body afterwards. Today in court, Melody Ferris was given brief instructions about her charges and upcoming trial.
She didn't go on trial until 2024.
When you see the opportunity, the means, and the motive, money, sex, new life, the truth, as sad as it is, as hard as it is that the defendant murdered and desecrated her own husband.
3 of her kids testified against her. However, her defense continually said it was Scott. Everything they think she did, he actually did. He was framing Melody. He was a mooch. Kill dad, frame mom, you get a nice taste of the pie. All the evidence the prosecution had against Melody was completely circumstantial, and there was a lot of unanswered questions in this case. Melody had the means, motive, and opportunity. She lied about the affairs, said some suspicious things, but there was no smoking gun. Hell, there was no gun, full stop.
13 minutes after law enforcement arrives, Scott Ferris is already blaming his mother. He knows nothing. They're not even sure if there is a body on the burn pile. They're not even sure it's Gary. He's already planting the seeds of blaming his mother. But the most important thing is just in that few minutes of getting there, he's already talking about guns being missing that he's the only person that has seen. Then he goes out looking. You're also most likely going to be seeing, there's a trail camera. You're going to see that coming up to that camera, for some reason, and I don't think we'll ever get a straight answer, we don't know why those photographs got deleted.
But again, one more thing came out during the trial. A cousin of Melody's, name of Martha Jane, came forward and said she was missing a .38, the same caliber as the murder weapon. She had actually been watching her cousin's trial on a live stream. When it came up during testimony, that's when she realized her own .38 was missing. Melody had a key to where the gun was kept. Melody may have stolen the gun from her cousin months before the murder, and that was the one Scott had seen in the house, but now couldn't find. Now, that gun was never found. It's never been found. But that showed Miss Martha Jane suddenly coming forward in the middle of the trial showed that Melody did have access to a .38, which was the gun used to shoot dead Gary Farris. At the end of the trial, Melody Farris was found guilty of the murder of Gary Farris. At her sentencing, she went on for 20 minutes, continuing to say she was innocent and that her son, Scott, had murdered Big Daddy.
I've written this so that I could get through the words.
Okay.
Not only did I not do this, I know who did. I know Scott killed his father. He took my husband, the father of Chris, Emily, and Amanda. He took Big Daddy from our grandchildren, Ella, Addison, Olivia, Jax, and James. 3 of them who never got to know Gary. Scott, this is unforgivable. As bad as it sounds, I want to be there to watch him chained and shackled and brought to justice. I plead with you. I saw you coming from that burn pile the morning of July the 5th in your truck. I did not do this. I promise you on my life. It's okay that I sit here. I just want answers. That's all I want. And I still haven't gotten them. And I don't think that I ever will. And that scares me to death.
Melody was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years. And there you go. That is the story of Melody and Gary Farris. You know, in my humble opinion, it seems likely that Melody did have help. Not from her kids. I don't think her kids were involved at all, even though whoa, I mean, what kind of mom was that tries to literally blame her own sons? Special kind of, like, evil, I think, to do that. But, I think Melody probably did have help in killing Gary. But, whom could have allegedly, apparently helped her out? I wonder who could have done that. We may never know. But this story, it's a twisted tale of family deception and finger pointing. Pretty sick, honestly. Shitty, you might say. And don't stop me. I will. Thank you so much for watching, folks. I really appreciate you being here, watching this whole video with this guy. Means a lot. It really does, as always. The next whole video will be up when it's up, you know, Tuesday and Friday. So give it a go, why don't you? But until then, please take care of each other and please take care of yourselves. Because I love you. Mike out.